Right, let's turn our attention to rugby. Hugh O'Sullivan is with us, who until very recently was a London Irish player. Hugh, good morning to you. How are you?
Hey, Ger, good. Thanks for having me.
So you've signed for Newcastle. So like that period of your career and uncertainty is over, and we're delighted for you that you've got something to look forward to. But it must have been incredibly uncertain over the last 6 months.
Yeah, 100%. So I was like, as you mentioned there, I was one of the very, very lucky ones. Really, I knew that I was going to be leaving the London Irish before all of the stuff really started coming into a head. So I suppose it all sort of kicked off really like. When we got paid late last month, and that's around the time when I signed with Newcastle. So I've comparatively, and maybe compared to my teammates and all the staff at London Irish, I have been probably nowhere near as worried really, because I knew that I could be changing clubs come in July. Like so, yeah, it's been a whirlwind. Like, and the last couple of days really is just a bit more like feeling bad, the bit of the sadness for the club as a whole. Obviously the teammates that I know quite well, but like outside of that, there's like a huge amount of staff there as well, and a bit having been there for 2 years, like you feel part of the community over there. Yeah, so it's all happened very quickly, I suppose, over the last few days, but it has felt a bit inevitable, I suppose. Like initially when we were told about these American investors coming in, like it's all very promising, but like it sort of became clear, I suppose, as the weeks went by and as things were changing that much, and like none of these evidence of funds that were being promised came true. I suppose like it didn't feel very promising at that point, I suppose, and I think then. I'm not sure how much you're aware, but we got a week's extension on the RFU deadline last week, when the current owner, Mick Cross, and he came in and paid half our wages to sort of give an extension to the process to try and get the deal done. But like from the RFU side, and at least what they told us on their end, the RFU and PRL basically said like the deal wasn't nowhere near, really, like they hadn't got anywhere near as much information as they would have needed to push the deal through. So yeah, it's been a tough few weeks for sure.
Can you take us back to the bit where you signed for London Irish? Why did you end up signing for them first off, and what was that like?
Yeah, so I came up to the Leinster Academy. I was in the Leinster Academy for 2 years, and then at Leinster Senior Squad for 2 years, and then I just sort of like needed a change as well. And there was no space for me at Leinster, so it was the best thing I ever did. Really, like I absolutely enjoyed my time at Leinster. It was an unbelievable experience there. Some great coaches there. It was Hugh Lancaster and Leo, but it was just really what I needed to go abroad, to change the scenery, and to try hopefully get more game time as well, which I did end up getting in London Irish. Not that big a change, like only across the water really, but yeah, like I suppose like I really fell in love with the club. It's honestly a great club. Like obviously the London Irish, the Irish connection is there, and it's very tangible, I suppose. Like there's when I went there for the first year, Sean O'Brien was still playing there, like Paddy Jackson is there. A lot of guys over there would be Irish qualified as well, even though they're English born, as they have Irish parents, and even through the amateur club over there, like there's a huge Irish connection. So yeah, and it was just great to experience, I suppose, like the Premiership over there. It's a different animal in the sense that like it's so competitive week on week, and we were very much like a mid-table team, I suppose, when we got over there trying to push up to get the top four. So every week was massive for us. Yeah, so it's a great league really.
And was it a straightforward decision? Did you have other options at the time, or were they the ones who were best kind of plugged into the Leinster network and understood, hey, this guy's ready to come join us?
Yeah, well, Declan Kidney was there at the time, obviously, and still is, and Les Kiss was there, so he obviously would have known Leo. But yeah, look, it was another Premiership club, so in terms of the other options, there would have been. I had no firm offers from elsewhere, but like it was a pretty good option in terms of going to the highest league in England. So I was pretty happy to go with it. Again, like you're still sort of within the shop window, and that it's not as if you're going down to Australia and New Zealand, where like the potential would be that if you go well enough over in the UK, that you might get a shot back in Ireland. But yeah, it was like, again, I mentioned the quality of the league and the players over there. So it was, and sometimes you can be sort of oblivious to that when you're in the Irish system. It's all about like the four provinces and like and the Irish team as it should be really. But like the depth and the quality over in the English clubs is something that's, I suppose, it's there as well. I only really realised that when I went over there.
And the competitiveness as well, Hugh, of the Premiership versus the URC. Like I know you've spoken before, but the jeopardy of the Premiership, it seems to be week to week always competitive. I don't know if you had a difference in opinion on how the URC compares.
Yeah, I suppose it's changed a small bit since I left Leinster, and that I think the South African teams coming into the URC has 100% helped the situation there. You've obviously seen it, like the Stormers winning it last year and being in the final again this year. And so I say teams during the season in the URC feel a lot more pressure to get results week on week. And then it's also given the fact that the club that I was like when I was with Leinster, like a lot of the time we were winning week on week, and like a lot of the time when I got chances to play, like that we were already top of the table by 10 points, and like there was a good chance we were going to win the game anyway. So I suppose it was a bit circumstantial in my point of view, in terms of I didn't really feel that jeopardy week to week when I was playing in the URC. But the Premiership 100%, like it's from 10th place, or it's going to be 10 teams next year now, with 3 teams gone, having folded this year. But whether it's bottom of the league, top of the league, like there's that ability for like any team to turn over any team. Even though like the likes of Saracens, Leicester are always there, so towards the top 4 towards the end of the year, it's like we were as from Irish point of view, like we were very, very close to. We became 5th this year in the league. We were very, very close to tipping into the top 4 for the first time in a long time. So like we were right on the sort of edge of like tipping it up into the top 4. So it was really sort of exciting to be in a club where like you were pushing on and trying to move forward from that point of view.
I know, Hugh, you're saying the end came quite quickly, but actually it had been a bit of a slow car crash over the last couple of years in terms of there were always kind of perpetual rumours about other clubs first and whether or not the contagion would spread. So in the changing room, on at training, were people just chatting, going, is everything grand here, or was it not spoken about at all at any point until close to the end?
I suppose you like obviously Worcester going first and then Wasps following that. It's obviously terrible to see, but the model is a bit different over in England as it is with the IRFU. Like the clubs are backed by like private investors essentially, like, and it's not really like the provinces where they're sort of funded massively by the IRFU. So like we knew that we had the owner Mick Crossan. He bought the club in 2013 and he'd been there since then. He had said openly in the press that he was open and willing to sell the club to anyone who was come in and willing to buy it. But like in saying that, he bought the club because he was a fan of London Irish, and he was injecting his funds into the club because as he was a fan. And I suppose so we've been aware that he was looking to sell the club, but he had given no indication that he was willing, that he was like trying to get out of the game completely. So, and to be honest, when it started off, we first got wind of these new American investors or potential American investors. Maybe the first I heard of it was there maybe just after Christmas time, and like it's all like that's completely positive news because you have this potential for this huge injection of funds to America. Yeah. Like that was really positive news for the club. Because you take what you're told at face value in terms of like, because you're told like the negotiations are ongoing, there's a good chance it's going to go through, like it's going to happen imminently, but then like that went on for 6 months and the thing never happened. So I suppose it started off being very positive news, and then as the time went on it slowly turned into like, well, like it didn't happen basically. So that's so it's a sad situation from that point of view, I suppose. Yeah. For
the team to finish as high as they did with this happening in the background suggests that you'd great coaches and a real proper team spirit.
Yeah. Like I suppose it really came to a head is when we got paid late last month. We still had 1 game left, and that was like we still hadn't been paid. It was maybe the Wednesday or the Thursday of the week, and like there was chats of like certain lads wouldn't have played, maybe weren't going to play that weekend, see that hadn't been paid, but we got paid in time. But yeah, generally speaking, like the talent over there is phenomenal. Like the academy is like famous for some of the talent it produces year on year, and some of those guys like Henry Arnold is a name, and you might be aware of at the moment, like he's come through the academy. There's guys like Will Joseph as well, loads of young lads, and even guys who are playing the senior team at the moment. A huge amount of those have come through the academy, and the coaches as well, as you mentioned, obviously Declan as Diawar and Les, but also there's some great academy coaches there, in James Lightfoot Brown and Jonathan Fisher, who are instrumental in producing some of that young talent as well. So like it's weird. It's listen to myself say this sort of stuff because essentially it's all gone now because the club has gone to administration. So it's very sad, really, the whole situation, because all of that potential there. Like I would have no doubt that the club would have pushed on and like would have challenged for top 4 next year in the Premiership, and gone on to like push things properly in Europe in the Champions Cup. So yeah, again, I don't really know the next steps of the club. Like, I'm not sure. Mick let us know by email that he's basically putting the club into administration. So yeah, I'm not really sure what that means for the rest of the club, but we'll see in time.
I think London Irish celebrate their 125th anniversary this coming October as well, Hugh. Like, people often forget, I suppose, the impact it'll have on the fans and also the staff, because behind the scenes you forget about all the people that work with the club. We see the players and the coaches obviously from at the forefront, but I'm sure there's a lot of people disappointed at the club and gutted.
Yeah, like as I said at the outset, like I'm very much in probably the best position here, given that I know I'm going to Newcastle, and that like I don't have kids, I don't have a mortgage to pay. There's all this sort of stuff going on. Like but other guys, like there's older guys in the team who have kids to look after, who have mortgages to pay. The staff you mentioned there, like I know one of the coaches, Declan Danaher, his partner is also employed by the club. Jodie's a physio. They had a kid 4 months ago, and now they're both let out of a job with a mortgage to pay and a kid to look after. So there's numerous stories like that. Like, it goes beyond just the professional team as well. There'll be community coaches involved in that who go out and do like community work in the sort of a region around London Irish and where we're based out in South West London. So yeah, it's just like, I'm not sure, there's probably up to like 50, 60 employees. Maybe I could probably undershoot that, to be honest, probably more. All of whom have lost their jobs, really. Like, so and it's the sudden nature of it, really. Like, I suppose that's why the RFU put in the deadline of at the end of the month to give the players some certainty. What they wanted to avoid was us going like starting off the next season and then folding 2 weeks in. So I suppose that did help us, but still it's still a massive shock.
There's a story
for all
it's horrific for all those people. It's like this isn't sport for them, that's their livelihoods. It's totally different. There is a story in the in the Telegraph today, which is also carried in the Irish Independent, that the RFU have had preliminary talks with the Rugby Football Union about getting involved in London Irish. As somebody who's come through the Irish rugby system and understands it intimately, what's your instinct about that?
Yeah, so I was listening this morning. I heard you mention that. It was the first I've heard of it, but yeah, it's something I would have thought made sense. Like, having come across from Ireland, the one thing I would say, or how I would have viewed it initially, was maybe like there being a partnership there, where, like, because I know there's such a huge amount of players coming through the academy systems in Ireland, and like effectively, like there's no room for them in the provinces. Like, they can't get sufficient game time. And so what I would have seen as was maybe like some sort of relationship where they send players across to play over here. But obviously what you described there, what's being reported, is a bit more substantial than that. But what I would say is that, like, which I've experienced since I went over to London and became part of the club, is that, like, London Irish as an entity of itself is like, it's huge, and from their point of view, like, the provinces aren't really, like, when you go up in Ireland, you play rugby in Ireland, like, the provinces are huge, but London Irish is their own entity as a club. They're fully focused on the Premiership. So and like I mentioned the academy system earlier on, like, it's a huge entity of itself. Like you couldn't just, like, the IRFU, it wouldn't work in my opinion where the IRFU just come in and buy it and, like, take over completely the running of it. Like, there's a huge region over there, there's a huge fan base, all the staff, the academy system there has been built up over years, and I said earlier on, there's 125 years of history of the club there. So
yeah, so you can't just wipe that out, and you need to find a way to accommodate the local fans who are fans of London Irish, who might have no connection with Ireland, and also those kids who are coming up and want to play in the Premiership and who have no interest in playing for Ireland because they're English.
Yes, because essentially they understand the Irish connection, but, like, they're English, like, to be blunt about it.
Yeah.
They might have some of them have English parents, but really they're English. They want to play with England when they grow up, like, and they want to play with Irish and then play with England. Yeah, so that's, yeah, as you said there, you can't come over and just wipe that out. There has to be some level of to and fro there, I think. Okay,
and one last one for you. Has pre-season started for Newcastle yet? Are you?
Starts next Monday. Yeah, so I'm flying over to London on Friday and then driving up. So yeah, it'll be a long pre-season now with the World Cup. Sort of extends or delays the start of the season proper. So it'll be 2-month-long pre-season, I think. So
right. Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And what's the competition like for a starting berth in Newcastle?
So there's been a lot of change there this year. Like, there's a new head coach coming in, Alex Codling, and generally amongst the playing group there's been a lot of change. So hoping again, like towards the end of the season with Irish, I did start to play. I played a bit more regularly, got a few starts on the bench in the Premiership. So hoping to sort of continue that up in Newcastle. And again, like a team, there are teams probably towards the lower end of the league, but pretty exciting with the new coaches coming in. Alex, I knew him from when I was younger, and a lot of new players coming in that, sort of almost starting a bit of a new project there. So, really looking forward to it.
Wish you the very best of luck, Hugh. Thanks a million for joining us. Cheers.
Cheers, Ger. Thank you.
It's Hugh O'Sullivan, who latterly was playing for London Irish, who now, of course, unfortunately don't really exist in the same format anymore